All right, it's just after 11 and I'm starting the recording. Good morning, good afternoon, Peter. I know you're checking in from the East Coast. So welcome to Let's Discuss and Talk About Living Our Values. So I'm Amy Johnson, a values and idea integrator, and I am here with my co-facilitator of the Discover Your Core Values workshops and friend, Sheila Arthur. Sheila is a mindset coach, and together we facilitate workshops and do these monthly Zooms on the 11th of every month at 11 a.m. PST, as we wanted to create a space that was safe to have conversations about values. And we wanted it to be an open space, a place to ask questions, get clearer about what it means to live in alignment with your values, talk about the challenges of that, the successes, and just a check-in to keep it in our minds, because it's easy to forget about them. Even though we're actively, whether we're conscious or not, living out of our values, a lot of times they don't stay in the forefront of our mind. So we do this monthly as a way to keep it in the forefront of our mind and engage in meaningful conversation, have real conversations about what's happening for each of us. And today's theme is values and work or career. And before we get into that, I like to do a quick refresher of what we mean when we talk about core values. How do we define core values? So core values are a single word or short phrase that connects you to your authentic self, your truest self, the inner compass that helps guide you where you want to go, what matters to you, what you care about, and how to get there. And there's a shortcut to that. When you do the core values work, you name and define and get really clear about what your values are and how you want to express them in the world. And what that means is that a lot of times we make decisions in our life unconsciously. We're not aware what we buy, what we eat, what we talk about, what we do each and every day, where we put our energy, where we put our time and resources, is oftentimes unconscious. The values work helps us get clear about all of that and gives us an opportunity to do an alignment check, to check in, to make sure that we are aligned with who we are. There are many influences in our lives, and taking time to do this particular work has been incredibly affirming, confidence building, and granting of peace of mind and making life more meaningful for myself, I know for Sheila, and for the many participants who kind of walked through this work with us or are engaged in our membership, which is the values connection too. So core values are not about being right or wrong. Shoulds or shouldn'ts are not part of it. It's not a black and white situation. And when you hear values talked about often in the world, and this is a good segue into our topic today, it is about values in a very general way. People are like, oh, you need to know your values. I heard someone say the other day in an Instagram ad, they said, outside of money, whatever you care about, those are your values. Like, what does that mean? So it's so general, it's hard to define. And if we don't take the time to define it, what matters to us, then it's easy for us to get caught up in what other people think is important. And we lose sight of ourselves often. So that's a little refresher on what we mean when we talk about core values. And then how we're going to apply that today is talking about work, career. How does it work? How do you align your work and your career to your values? And what does it mean to do that? One caveat that when I was thinking about this theme is that today we're specifically talking about work that is compensated for in some form. I really believe there's a lot of invisible work out there, and people often don't get recognized for that work. And that's another conversation with values. But today's conversation is really about aligning the work we do as a job or as an entrepreneur or business owner, author, things that we get compensated for in some way. So I wanted to make that clear distinction because I believe there's a lot of work that doesn't get recognized that is also important to talk about, but this particular conversation is a little bit different. So with that, Sheila, do you have anything you want to add to what I was saying?
Yes, as a matter of fact, I do. I've been thinking a lot about this topic that we decided upon. And I wanted to emphasize too that while we're talking about core values, we have more than our core values working for us. We use the core values as it's kind of the way of thinking about what's most important to us. So these are the things that are essentially important to us. It doesn't mean that the other values aren't embedded within those core values, because when I think about my value, say, of presence, there's a lot of other values that are embedded in that, like authenticity and showing up and so many other things. So these would be values. So I was thinking about that in the context of the work piece, because I was a lot of the values around work, like leadership, for instance, is a value, but it's not, it's an important value to me in a work situation, but it's not one of my core values, but it's still important. So there's this whole piece that then I thought about that I'd like to talk about as well, about not only the core values, but the values that underlie our core values and how we bring those to the workplace and how those play out in the decisions that we make about the work that we do and our satisfaction and all of the things related to being fulfilled in the work environment.
That's really true. These are complex issues. I mean, talking about values is not a one and done kind of situation.
Yes.
It's one that is multifaceted. And for me, my journey with work has been, actually, it's what I love talking about, work and values, because it's where I got clear about my values, because I was so often out of alignment and unsatisfied and not loving what I did. And when I had to go ask myself, I was good at what I did, I was successful at what I did, but I was not fulfilled. And it was an issue of values. And it was through my work most often that I got clear about what my values are. And so I really appreciate the nuance that happens when you talk about work, and how to also differentiate skills from values too. Like I have certain skill sets, and I have also what are my values, and then how do I use those skill sets to connect to my values, to understand my values. So it's somewhat semantics, but at the same time, the core values are often a really useful tool when we're finding ourselves in a chart of starting something new, looking for a new career path or wanting to. I work with people often who are at turning points in their life, in either career or just in their day-to-day life. And when that happens, it's an opportunity to go deep and get clear. And so the values are a map. And so writing with your 5 to 7 core values, if you've done the core values discovery work and have that clarity, then it's a really great tool to list, to write about what you're doing and how it aligns or not with your values. In our last session for this last month, we actually talked to my daughter, Ella, about a new job she had and how that aligns or not with her values. And she hadn't thought about it in that way before and realized how much she didn't think it did. But then when we actually took the time to go through each of the values and align it, it got clear for her. And actually some of her anxiety about starting something new and what this could mean for her shifted. And I think it shifted her perspective. I'm speaking for her, but as mom, I will take that privilege once in a while. So she may join in too today, and we can ask her herself if she felt that too. But I think she said that while we were there, and then seeing her thrive in this new position that hasn't always been easy either. So I think it's an important conversation to have and to help us all get clear. And I'm glad to have it for myself and for others who might be tuning into the recording, or Peter who's here, or those who may come a little bit late as well. So great.
Beautiful, beautiful. So Peter, I have to ask you, so what brought you here today?
Well, I can see the value in a discussion about values. For me, it's a good guide to effective decision making. So often I'll make a choice or a decision and not really be conscious of what's driving that choice. And so I'm trying to live a little more intentionally these days and make decisions with a little more consciousness and with kind of being aware of the end result that I would like to achieve or the experience that I would like to have. So I thought this would be a good place to come and find out more about how I can take yet another tool put another tool in my toolbox to help with my decision making.
You have definitely come to the right place. I think so. We talk about values in terms of decision making all the time because it gives you such clarity to really know that, and it's a wonderful way to filter decisions through the lens of your values. It's like, okay, so what is most important to me in this moment? Knowing that shifts from time to time, but having a sense of what your core values are really helps when you're prioritizing and deciding what is going to be the key parts of a decision. And so it's like I don't know what I would do if I didn't use values as that compass for making decisions, because I can always tell when I've not made a good decision. Because there's that sense of discomfort, there's that sense of not feeling aligned, there's that sense that, okay, this isn't quite, I'm not feeling really great about it, or just in a moment, you talk about being intentional. Like sometimes, big decisions require that kind of focus, but small decisions, like micro decisions, all the things that we do daily, like even my choice around how compassionate I am in a situation, shows up and makes a difference. Because sometimes if I find myself being a little bit abrupt or not as compassionate as I'd like to be, then I think about my value of compassion and really try to understand from the other person's perspective, or just like cease with the judgment, I mean, that sort of thing that comes up all the time, right? So this is like, the values work is so powerful because it's living it every day, and making those choices every day that are aligned with the values. And sometimes I fail. Sometimes I'm not as patient as I would like to be. And when I experience myself that way, I always go back to, okay, I have a value of compassion, leading with compassion. So I need to practice that. And so it requires more practice. So it's the small decisions and then the bigger ones as well that really help me to just stay in tune with, okay, this is my compass. This is how I can be intentional. This is how I can be very conscious and look at what it is that I want to achieve. And it is having this sense of harmony and contribution and connection and inspiration. And so if I'm not doing things that are aligned with that, then it shows up pretty quickly for me.
It's so true, Sheila. The out of alignment is like, oh, wow, something is off here, and being able to, and from what you said too, you're so crystal clear on your values that I think it really helps to have that core set of values to be able to apply for decision making in multiple different areas. Because when we have that kind of like that instant connect to our authentic self that we've revisited or started originally, it's something we can then apply to many different situations. So when I was growing up in the 80s and 90s, getting into my career and work, there was a big separation between personal values and work values. And there was a lot of people that were like, this is okay at home, but at work, my values are different. Mm-hmm. And what having one set of values does is allows us to not be so disconnected. I think we've seen some of the results out in the world of a disconnected value system in terms of decision making. And it's important that, so I can take my set of values and do it, think about day-to-day living, making it more conscious, and then at the same time apply those same values and take time and write about a potential client, a company that I'm going to be working with or collaborating with. And I can do it about something specific, and I can do it about something general. So if it's about a new opportunity, I can think about the opportunity from a general way, or I can dial down and get very specific about an aspect of that job. Maybe that is more client relations, or maybe that is business development. How would I approach that aspect of that job from my values. And so it's both general and specific, and the tool is super simple. It's starting that you have a clear set of 5 to 7 core values. It definitely starts with that. And then it's taking 10 minutes to 20 minutes, if you have it, to jot down and connect the what and the how of what that looks like, and how it could look like, and why it looks like that. And so you have some connect, you answer some kind of basic questions about the value and how it lives in those areas, or how it could look in those areas. And it's the fact that you have that set and then can apply it to multiple things has been very helpful to me in making different decisions that seem almost impossible to make at times, and really gets clear. And you mentioned compassion. I think we're at a time where compassion, talking about compassion in work, was not a conversation that people were having. There was no compassionate leadership. There was no presence. And they were called like soft skills, I think,
Absolutely.
EQ.
Yes.
And
Yes.
now we're moving into a place where that's far more important. And not just in the workplace, because this can happen even if you're self-employed or if you're working for a company. And I can tell myself that's not that important too. But if I go to my values, I don't have the compassion is a value of mine. That's not one of my words, but it is in connect. It's there in something like my value of connection, and my value of gratitude and grace. And so that's an example of a personal value of mine, but it's not that word in itself is not one of my core values, even though it's an important one to me. So
completely understood. I was just thinking today they call that it falls under the rubric of emotional intelligence. And so that becomes something that's now, it's like, oh my goodness, you got to have emotional intelligence. And just to clarify, I mean, I think when I talk about compassion, you might think it's like, oh, this kind of empathy and this place of like, there's a place of allowing, but it's a place of really recognizing that we're all just on this journey together. And sometimes we struggle and we come with the tools that we have. And so sometimes we have skill sets and sometimes we don't. So it's like, for instance, even in a conversation with somebody, if somebody says something that rubs me the wrong way, I can think about, okay, so they don't have the language to really express that. And it didn't come across in a way that I might have delivered it, but that doesn't mean that the message still isn't powerful. It still isn't valid. It means that I need to allow that they may not have that same level of communication. They may not have that same level of awareness. It just may be different. They're coming from a completely different place, and that's valid too. So it's like I recognize that my way of being in the world isn't the only way. It's one way. It's my choice, but it's not the only way. And it just opens it up so that it's like I can focus on what's most important. Going back to what you said about what you said, Peter, about the end result, keeping the end result in mind. It's like, what is the bigger picture here? Is it about me feeling conflicted about something, or is it about us achieving something together? Is it about me getting a message across or having somebody deliver a message, or is it about, who is right and who's wrong? And so when you start to just unwrap that and not focus so much on the smaller issues, the larger issues can then take shape. And then there's room for people to make mistakes. There's room for disagreement. There's room for different perspectives. And it just allows more openness for me. And so that's what all that falls under the compassion piece. Leading with compassion is leading with that understanding and openness. So I guess it would encompass a lot of things, which the core values do, which is the beautiful part about it. It's like you choose a word or phrase that encapsulates something that is powerful for you. So that one value, that core value, becomes something that when you think about it, it evokes and it invokes so many other things. And it's so easy for you to just choose compassion, lead with compassion. And it means all these different things. You bring all those things and all those to the moment.
Exactly. Peter, do you want to say something?
Yeah, I have a question. So in a work environment, I guess the question that comes up for me is how to reconcile conflicting values, or better yet, how to harmonize values amongst management and employees or something like that. I mean, I guess you guys have talked about that. I'm sure you've thought about it. Any tips or techniques?
Well, I would say that it's not easy conversations to have, but it really depends on the culture of the company in many ways about being able to have those kind of conversations or not. The clearer the individual, so the clearer the individual is in a certain situation about what their values are. It's not about changing someone else's to match yours, but finding where there are alignment. So even when Sheila and I were talking, the word compassion wasn't in mine, but I could, and because the work in the Discover Your Core Values exercises is about going deeper than just the word, it's actually defining it. So we have a clear, deep understanding of what it means. So oftentimes the words may be different, but we can find where there is alignment. Now, if you're at a company or management that doesn't see the world the way you do, or there's out of alignment, then there's bigger questions to have. And that's where the values work helps get clear about that. And if it's an individual that's saying, God, I really don't agree with this, my company or my boss or this way of operating in the world, then the values work on an individual level is really important, because then it's not just a general bad, good, it's not working. It's getting crystal clear about what it is, where the problem is. That's why I was saying, like, go general or specific. It's this aspect of the business or this aspect, or it could be the whole culture. And we're seeing a lot of people, I keep hearing about the great resignation, a lot of people leaving and moving around their jobs, because I think there is a deeper understanding that when we're out of alignment or not matching where we're working, there's a lot of disharmony, disconnection, and unsatisfaction, and the yearning for something more fulfilling and connected. And I do think that not to think about values in a work environment is one, we are missing an opportunity, whatever size the company is. And my hope is that everything is in alignment with values on a company level, but culture has so much to do with it. There's not kind of a one size fits all, I don't think. It's very situational in terms of how to best engage in that conversation.
Yeah, we've thought a lot about it, Peter, and I think that, yeah, your question is an excellent one, and it's a big one, because I think that when you talk about reconciling, that's like there's so many conversations that need to take place, and I think the values work and the values conversation is so important, because a lot of times companies will have a set of values that either are their stated values or they might be their norms, and they may be a combination of the two, and they're not always the same, right? So they might be quite different, or they might be very similar. And then everybody else brings their own set of values. But I think that the beautiful part about the values conversations and some of the work that Amy and I are planning to do is really looking at how there is alignment, because a lot of times, like even when we're talking, language is so precise and imprecise at the same time. So it's like somebody might have something like, if you think about one of those triggers, like, somebody might say, I value the family values. Family values are very important to me. And that might mean something different to many different people. Like what family values is code for something for some people. And some people are saying, you know what, I really value family and that connection and my lineage and establishing something for the future. So it may look different, it may look similar, and there may be similar points in that. So it's like finding where's the common ground in that. To me, it's always about, it's so much about getting to the core of something and where we're more similar than we are dissimilar, because we're human beings. So it's like somewhere deep in there, there's more of a connection than a lot of times we realize. And so when you can actually do the work and really define it and articulate it and share it, sometimes you can see that. And then when you don't see it, then there's a decision point too. Like if you were in a very competitive organization and achievement and recognition are super important. And that's not something, and you prefer collaboration. There may be aspects of the achievement that still resonate with you. There may be aspects of competitiveness that still resonate or don't resonate with you. But then there's a way to then within that framework to figure out, okay, is there enough of this? Is there enough of me in here to make this worthwhile? Can I live with these values and bring my best self every day? Or is there such a conflict? Am I feeling such dissonance that I need to move on because it's not a good fit? So that then becomes the question once you've identified what they are. But a lot of times they're not really spoken of in a way that people can really understand what the true values are, because a lot of times companies don't match what they say their values are with how they actually behave and what the culture is. So it's a big conversation. It's a great conversation. And I think that what we're trying to do here is to really help individuals, like within an organization, when you're, whatever structure you're in, whether it's working independently and as in your own business or in a company, how do you find that best alignment? How do you, like within what you're dealing with, how do you survive? How do you thrive in that environment? How do you flourish? How do you bring your best self and your values to that and stay true and authentic to who you are in the context of where you are? And so that's always the thing.
I can even see that the conflict can be within me. Forget about with other people in the organization, but if I value income and I value financial prosperity, but I also value leisure time, I value peace of mind and all of that, there's that internal conflict potentially. So I think it's finding confluence within myself and then also finding it with other people's values.
Absolutely. And you're raising such a great point there, because we often talk about that in the work that we do, is that sometimes the values seem to conflict. So there seems to be this place where, okay, so I've got these values, but this one, if I focus on this value, then this one is going to suffer. If I'm focusing on this one, then what about these other three? And so how do I reconcile? How do I find the harmony within those? How do I choose? And sometimes I know, at least for me, in the conversations that Amy and I have had about it and the work that we've done, it's like it depends. Which one takes precedence or which ones take precedence will depend on the situation, will depend upon so many other factors. And it's like, but when you don't even know what they are, it's hard to honor your values when you're not even clear about what they are. So it's like the process of uncovering what they are and naming them and bringing them to whatever decision point you have. Then you get to prioritize and then see how that resonates, see how that sits. Does that work? If I prioritize these three above these other two, how does that feel for me? Can I live with that? Or what needs to shift? And sometimes it's like this juggling act. It's like sometimes one will take precedence over the other. And that's, I guess it's kind of like how life is, right? It's never just linear. It's always this and this, if you think about it.
Well said, Sheila, and great question, Peter, and great observation as well, because I think, and to me, that's why this work is so important, because the more clear we are about our values and how they get applied in different situations, the better we will be at navigating what's going on out there and getting clear if our value is our value, our authentic, truest value, or one from something else. I have put there's an ad from the 80s, and I have put this on my social media, by the perfume Angélie, which talks about, bring home the bacon and fry it up in a pan and never let him forget he's the man. And it's all about the 24-hour woman, right? There's no room for a harmony or balance in that. That's a 24-hour woman. And yet that thinking certainly has influenced my brain and was an operating value, whether I knew it or not. So getting really clear that what is and isn't our values, and then how we define each of those words. So what that looks like, and also getting creative. So sustainability is one of my values. And for me, that absolutely means a reverence for the natural world, the planet, people and animals, and how we are caring for it for future generations. So it also means sustainability in terms of having a sustainable living. How can I sustain? I'm a single mom, take care of my children, my family, myself, and do it sustainably. How can I sustainably work so that I'm in balance with my own well-being? So I'm able to like look at my value almost like a crystal or prism. And so it comes from many different angles. So that's where that word in many different contexts can be useful. And our values can often direct us in that way when we're asking those questions, which is why I love the process that we walk people through in our Discover Your Core Values workshops, because it gives us each participant a chance to do that in a deep way and get to the 5 to 7 values that are ours, that for, you know, for the moment, for what we authentically feel is representational of us, and how, and it's just, it doesn't have to work for anybody else, just for ourselves. And this is a good moment to say we're actually offering our workshop again. And Sheila and I are offering the Discover Your Core Values workshop in September 5th and 12th, I think, if I can go off of my memory correctly. I'll put a link in the chat for how to sign up. And we're excited because each time we've done the workshop, it's just been so enriching and rewarding, and being able to see people really connect the dots in their own life and then apply it to the decisions that they make and the work that they're doing, and even coming up with new ideas for how to live their lives through their values is really a powerful experience. So I'm going to put that in the chat right now.
Thank you, Amy. Thanks for that. So welcome, Anne, and welcome, Erin. We didn't get a chance to say hello when you first arrived. We were right in the middle of a conversation. So we're talking today about values in the context of career and work. So how do you bring those values into the workplace? How do you bring those values to the work that you do? Are you bringing all or just some of your core values to your work? And if so, how does that feel for you? So these are the kinds of questions that we've been thinking about and just wanted to talk about today. So welcome. And I don't know whether either one of you has anything to add at this point, but if you do, would love to hear where you are today and what brought you here.
Sure, I'll go. Hi, sorry, I'm in and out. It's been a chaotic morning.
Glad to have you. Glad to have you always. Yeah.
Thank you so much. It's so great to see you both. And hi, Peter. I don't think I've met you before, or Anne, but hi. I came today, well, because I love you guys and I love these.
We love you too.
But it's actually really perfectly timed too, because I just graduated college and in June, and I'm working, part-time right now with a company, and I'm starting to look for more full-time opportunities. So I think it's really, I think it's going to really help actually a lot to focus more on what are my core values and like what would they look like in the workplace, because I feel like there's so many options, like there's so many directions to go. It's almost hard to like even know where to apply or what to apply for, or because there's just so much out there that I think getting really clear with my values could be helpful in like narrowing it down. But also it's scary. It's like, I don't know, because there's so many options, it's like, I don't know where I'm heading, I guess. So it's exciting and it's also scary. So yeah.
So glad that you were here today. And I, the exciting part is is amazing. And I also recognize the scary part. And I don't know if this is, I'll just for myself, it doesn't go away. So it's like, the college part is, leaving college and entering the workforce is like one phase, but there are so many other phases that I've come across in my life. And I'm actually at another choice point right now, which is why this topic is so relevant to us today, where there's a lot of possibilities, right? There's a lot of possibilities about what my next steps are going to be. And that clarity, I've been relying heavily on the values work as the basis for like making some of those choices, or at least eliminating the things that will not serve me. Sometimes it's easier. I mean, sometimes the approach might be, okay, so what's not going to work? This is where I don't want to be. And then trying on the things that give me some excitement and joy, and there's possibility in them. It's like, oh yes, this could be fantastic. And how do I feel about this? How do I work with this? What do I want to do next with this project? So that is like totally up for me as well. And yeah, Amy and I've had some good conversations about that recently, just because it is so relevant. It's like, okay, I'm at a different phase of my life right now. So it's like, I'm even grappling with whether I'm going to still be here in the United States. So it's like, it's kind of a big deal. It's like, okay, so, and I'm having to run a lot of things through the core values, and the work still, I haven't made a decision yet. So I'm still experimenting, I'm still researching, I'm still trying things on, because I recognize that I'm entering a different phase in my life. Again, I could feel it, you could feel that there's something bubbling up, right? There's movement is afoot, right? But how do I make that like the next best step? Knowing that I might choose something that may not work out, but I have a willingness to like go there and try it anyway. But then I've got to just decide what are those one or two things going to be, and then move forward. So I'm completely understanding where you are right now, Erin, from a different vantage point. It's kind of like that. It's like a spiral staircase, right? You come back to the same kinds of issues, but from a different vantage point, right? And so here I am, in my I don't even know what to call it. I don't want to call it my later years. What is it? So it certainly doesn't feel like that, right? But it's a different phase, right? It's a different phase. So it's like, okay, so what's up for me now? And how do I want to live out the next 10 years, say, for instance? What do I want to be doing? Where do I want to be? And what are the things that I want to keep bringing into my life that help me to flourish, to grow and flourish? Because that's one of my values, is grow and flourish. So what's next for that? So very, very timely conversation, and glad that you're here today.
Yes, me too. And well said, Sheila. And there's so many turning points in life. I think, when as a parent watching children go through different developmental phases, as adults, we also go through developmental phases, and it gets kind of lost in the conversation. And yet that's why I really love working with people during turning points in their life, because that's an opportunity to really get clear about ourselves. And I find often, when I was younger in particular, I used to cringe every time someone said to me, what do you want to do? And I think that's a very common question. Well, what do you want to do now that you're graduated? Oh, you're going to college. What do you want to do? What do you want to do? What do you want to do? And I would get frozen. Now, that's not for everybody. I've known people who knew exactly what they wanted to do from when they were little, and that's their trajectory, and that's going to be a different conversation. But I didn't know. So I've had to change the question for myself. And it's more about, how do I want to be? How do I want to be of service? How do I want to be out in the world? What does that look like? And the values can be a really great guide for that, because for me, the what is very important, but the doing of it isn't as important necessarily. So in fact, applying my values in different situations is really kind of a fun thing. And that makes more opportunity and gives an opportunity to be more open to possibility in that way, is what I have found. And there are no mistakes. Every job that I have ever had, parts of my career have been useful to me. There's a tendency out there to say, well, I really envision this, or my vision is this, and this is my A job or B job or C, whatever. And I've never found that to be true. Every small part-time job I've had, every business I started a business in high school. Each one of those has been so important to me and has been useful to me in another job that I would have never imagined possible. Like, oh, wow, that time I worked for that caterer, that was really helpful in this other job that is for a company, you know? So it's important to remember that we're not trying to get perfectionistic with the values or perfectionistic about the next step, and allow the opportunity to come that may show us something different and that I needed to learn in a blessing kind of way, in a beautiful way, an energetic way. So it's about not so much about being afraid to make a mistake, even though I really relate to that fear of the unknown too, and not knowing where it's going to go, but also asking and using the practical tool of the values that you have right today. There's not going to be a perfect set of values, the values that you've been through the workshop. So you have a set. It's good to challenge them. And Sheila mentioned flourish. Now that's a value that wasn't in my original set, but I felt something was missing. And that's what it was. And boy, I love adding that in. And it's really been helpful to see that it wasn't there, because it helps me make better choices for myself. So it's important to, check your values and make sure that they're full of you, full meaning like it's an authentic representation of you. Mm-hmm. So like adding flourish, but also they can be then really a great steadfast way to make comparisons, to just check on things and then make the course correction if necessary.
Thank you so much to both of you. That's everything I needed to hear. Of course.
Good.
Well stated. I started on this as you were talking about all the things, Amy, that all the jobs, all the part-time jobs, all the things that you've done and how each of them has served you. I started going through this inventory and I was laughing at myself because I've had some doozies of jobs. I've worked in some very interesting industries that I never thought that I would work in, or didn't see the connection between one industry and the next, but there was one, right? And it has been, it's kind of like the experiences, like for me, the experience of life itself is that there's always something to be gained from it. There's always something of value in whatever the experience is. And it creates that you that shows up today, right? So it's all good in that sense. And I truly believe that, because I've just had so many experiences that have borne that to be, it's been born out of those experiences that, yes, absolutely. Even though at the time it may not be very clear, so I would just encourage you, Erin, to just do that kind of internal check around what resonates with you in this moment and what would be the next best step for you to take. And knowing that, the road is not the linear road, but it just goes in many different ways. And you may come around to something that's quite amazing and may even start there, but that just, it's the journey itself that has so much value in terms of what you'll ultimately end up doing and how it will ultimately impact you and your life in general. So it's just like, I just encourage you to take that step, and and just decide, try it on, and see. Because it's like, if I hadn't tried things on, there's so many things that I would not have done. And I tried them on, and some of them were amazing fits, and some of them were like, oh my God, am I glad I did this? Because I know that I don't have anything to do with this kind of thing anymore, but it was really having the willingness to try it out and to see, because it's like, you don't know, you and even if there's a failure early on, it doesn't mean that later on that same thing might bring tremendous success, because you're at a different place and you learn so many things and you bring so much more to it. So it's like there's no wasted effort. I don't think in that regard. That's how I view life. Other people may not, but that it works for me. So for what that's worth.
It's so true, Sheila. I agree completely. And I wanted to share now too, that because of all this thinking around what college and all that, we just finished the new workbook and new program for high schoolers and teens and people who are applying to college, but even if you're in college, to do the core values work, because we've seen the benefits of doing this work early and having that real opportunity for young people to ask the questions of themselves, what matters to them. And I have two daughters who are in that age group, and one has done the work and one is, slowly getting to a place where she's interested in it. But the benefits are great. And so we're excited about launching that this fall to give teens and high schoolers and even college kids an opportunity to get clear about their own personal core values too. So, and Cynthia, welcome. We're glad you are here. I'm glad you were able to get on.
Yes, absolutely. And Cynthia, if you can hear me, thank you she gave me a phrase for what I was grappling with around how do I identify this phase. And she said, it's your greatest years. It's like, yes, I love that. So that's what it is. I'm launching into my greatest years.
I love that. Yes.
That's really good. Yes.
That's wonderful.
Thank you for that, Cynthia.
So, Anne, do you have any questions? Or you were saying you're probably just listening today, so I don't want to put you on the spot, but if you had any questions and you want to write them in the chat, or I can send you my number, I'm happy to talk after if you have any questions. So we're glad you are here.
Yes, absolutely.
Are interested in the conversation, because this is something we're both very excited about and love to do. And Cynthia, did you have anything you wanted to say? Maybe you're not able to talk either.
Right.
So I don't want to put anybody on the spot unnecessarily. That is not in alignment with my values to do to anyone.
Yeah, I really like, thank you for mentioning, Amy, the work that we're currently doing and the things that we're excited about that are coming up. I think the launching into the whole teen and working with young people is something that has always been of interest to me, because it's like I'm at the phase where it really feels important. I feel like compelled to give back in a way to like the other generations, the up and coming generations, and just watching Amy's daughter Ella and her process around, entrance into college and how she used the values work and how it made such a difference for her in her college essays and what it opened up in terms of, just getting all of these amazing offers from all these different colleges. And a lot of it was, it was academics plus. So there's like, the plus part was her understanding of who she is as an individual and being able to articulate that in an authentic way that really resonated with the colleges and universities. And they see that this is a very strong candidate. This is someone who is self-aware. This is someone who can really contribute to our curriculum, our programs, and make a difference here at the university. So it was just so powerful, that process. And that's sometimes the things that's missing from kids. I mean, it's just not having that opportunity to really be able to even understand that. It's on one level to understand this is who I am. And God knows I certainly wasn't there in my teens. I kind of thought I was on some level. There was so much more after that. So it's like, oh my gosh. But in any case, just really being clear about what belongs to you and how you're choosing to frame and make decisions and what you want to contribute and what everything is all about. It's like when you can like figure that out, the younger that you can figure that out, the easier life becomes, because this is all about the decisions that you'll make, the choices that you'll make, the things that you'll get involved in, how you'll contribute. I mean, it's just so powerful. So I'm super excited about this work because there's such a potential to reach young people and to really provide them with that, you know, help them to find that within themselves. It's already there. So it's just a matter of uncovering it, you know, and that's the exciting part. That's the
Mhm.
exciting part. So thanks for mentioning that, because it's like, yes, we are going to do that. It's really good. Hi, Cynthia.
Hi, I wanted to chime in. I had a bunch of groceries in my hand. I was driving, but I am so excited about the work that you and Amy are doing, and just being a contribution to us as human beings. Okay, it's our values. Recognizing our values are so important, and companies now, they have to think about their values more than ever, okay?
Absolutely.
Because so many people are just deciding whether they want to do business with you based on your values. And then your values will determine how you're going to treat people, your employees, your customers, your clients, your children, your sisters, brothers, aunties, and that person who is just walking next to you. And we have to get in touch with our values more than ever. And when you mentioned that you're in your greatest years, well, I am in my greatest years too. So
I
I'm
know.
making decisions, right? And I think in your greatest years, you feel more powerful than in your just your formative years. And you feel like, hey, I'm gonna take some chances. What do I have to lose? Nothing. Okay.
Right.
So
Yeah.
I'm just so excited about the work that you and Amy are doing. I just had to chime in as long as I could.
Oh, do we lose her?
I think we did. Yeah. Thank you so much for that, Cynthia. Thank
Yeah, that
you.
was
Yes,
wonderful.
absolutely. Yes. And she's absolutely right. It is, I've said this so many times. These are the absolute best years of my life, hands down. It's just like, oh my gosh, wow. If somebody had told me this in my 40s, it's like, it's amazing in so many ways, because yeah, you really have, so I have such a different perspective and vantage point. And you're right. What do you have to lose? And just understanding that even if I do lose, I'm still okay, you know? So it's like that in and of itself is like, wow, it's so powerful to have that sense of self. And I think that the more that people can really find that within themselves, the easier life becomes to have resilience, to deal with challenges, to face uncertainty, because you know, no matter how much we'd like to create certainty, you know, life is pretty uncertain in so many ways, you know, and that's the nature of it. And really understanding that and being able to roll with that has been like one of my greatest gifts that I'm deeply, deeply appreciative of, because it makes all the difference in the world every day. So thank you for that, Cynthia.
Yes.
Oh, you're on mute, Cynthia.
And as women now, we should have already thought we were powerful. And then I always tell women who have had a baby, you are the most powerful person on this earth. You were chosen to create another human being. So nobody can tell you any kind of rubbish, not even your husband. He can't produce another human being, okay? So we have to think a lot more of ourselves. But now, as you see with what's going on in our environment, women are finally started to be respected, but we have to put that respect on ourselves, and that relates to our values. And we absolutely have nothing to lose. So we have to lead with the mindset. We don't have anything to lose. It might look like you're losing at the time, but you're also gaining. Just like you said, Amy and Sheila, in your job, you're always gaining. So we have to take on that mindset, but the values are at the core, and I appreciate you guys.
I appreciate you too.
Appreciate you too.
So well stated. And I love the way that you frame it in the context of the feminine, because that is super important. And I mean, and I would be remiss if I didn't recognize that that's such a central part of, undoubtedly, of who I am and how I move about in the world. And a lot of my values are framed within the context of the feminine. And that the presence presence and the passion and my honoring life and so many other things that are so essential to the next phase of our evolution as human beings and is on this planet. And it is essential. Like you talked about something so simple about what seems to be so mundane about life, bringing forth life, but it's like the ultimate in terms of power, and it's the ultimate in terms of contribution. And to recognize it as such is really, thank you for saying that, because it's super important. You're absolutely right. For women to recognize that.
I wanted to say that too.
That's a big deal.
As a mama, I don't hear that a
big
lot.
deal. Yes, absolutely.
That isn't said a lot, right?
No,
So
it's
as a
not.
mom, I don't hear that often. And to tie it back to the values, I think women we intuitively work this way. And most, not all women, but majority of women, it's in our nature to look holistically at things because of how our brains are constructed. And the more we are clearer about our own values, because for a long time, I had a kind of a general idea of what my values were. But the more specific I got, the clearer I could identify them and then be able to make decisions, act on them, and be clear about when I was kind of off that or on it, the better my life became, the more impact I could have, the more confidence I had to speak my mind, to put myself out there. It didn't mean that I wasn't scared or needed to find my courage to speak up. I still have to do that. I get on a Zoom or have to speak. It still takes courage, but I build more confidence the more I know myself clearly and connectedly. And as a woman, I see that. And as a mother, it's so important to me. And I want to, and the values work for teens and young people, help them start earlier, because they talk a lot. That generation, Gen Z, does talk a lot about values, and getting them really crystal clear about what that means. So it's not a trend, but, or a really cool TikTok video, which is a great way to communicate, but it needs, but that one step further. Well, this is why I care about that, because this is why this matters to me, because X, Y, and Z. And I'm making this choice because.
Yes.
And so when we become less fickle that way. And as the women who are out there in greatest years, I consider myself there too, it's a transition time. It's a turning point for the world, not just for ourselves. And the more we can do that work ourselves, the better. So
yes. Thank you so much for that, Cynthia.
That was great.
I love that. That was a beautiful shift. And it's a wonderful way we're actually almost at the point of ending. Yeah, we actually are. And it's a wonderful way to wind up, just thinking about our own contributions and our own standing in our own power. And I think that's part of it. You talk about the confidence and standing in our power and recognizing and risking, because risking is so important, like not having anything to lose. I mean, these are things that I'll walk away with today that are like exactly what I needed to hear, right? It's like there are no accidents, right? So this is like perfect in terms of, even as I talk about the different projects that are coming up for me and what I intend to do and where I intend to live and all of those things, bearing that in mind, it's like, wow, that just leaves me feeling so hopeful and excited. Because it's all within, it's already there. I already have it.
Yeah.
And now it's just being clear and intentional, and that's a powerful place to be.
That's great. It is powerful. It's good. It's conversation, talking about important, I like to say, deep end of the ocean, the deep end of the pool, or deep end around here. Talk about the real stuff.
That's right. That's right.
If anyone knows a teen or a family of teen, high school, college kids who are interested in this work or might benefit from this, email me. I'll put my email in the chat. It's amy@amyjohnsonco.com. And we're starting a wait list for our October workshop. We also work individually too. with
Yes.
adults as well as with, with our regular Discover Your Core Values work, as well as with teens, but we're going to do an actual group workshop in October. So
Yes.
we're excited about that and want to beginning to start to
Yes,
talk about
very
that. Spread the
excited.
word. So it is 12:01. We will be here next month.
And
September
thank you
11th.
so much, Anne. Thank you, Aaron.
Thank
Thank
you.
you all, Cynthia. Thank you for coming. Thank you for your
Thank you.
participation. Thank you for just your presence. Whether it was an actual participation by saying something or just by your presence here, it really informs the entire conversation and it makes a difference. And I love what we create. However large or small the group is, it's always very impactful. And I always walk away just feeling like I received more than I gave. So thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you so much.
And let's hope to see you next time on
Yes,
11/11. Yes.
All right.
Thank
Lots of
you.
love. Be
Okay.
well.
Aim to find
Bye.
out more.
Good
I'm
to
very
see you, Sheila.
interested.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Yes, I'll see you soon. Okay.
Yes. Okay. Bye.
Okay, bye-bye. And I hope you move out of the country, Sheila.
You'll have another place to visit.
I know. And you know what, Sheila? You cannot fail. You cannot fall down. I mean, there will be somebody who will pick you up, a situation, a person. I mean, I fell walking and hey, there was somebody to pick me right up. I was by
Oh.
myself, but someone
Oh.
picked me right up. But that's in life. That is in life. So you can't fail.
I love that, Cynthia. And I know that you embody that and you believe that and with every fiber of your being, and that's how you live your life. And I just love having that reinforced for me because that is the truth of it, and I know that, but to like know it is yeah, that's big. So I thank you for that. Truly. Yeah.
And how life is, this pandemic worked out really well. You can work anywhere in the world.
I love that.
Okay, anywhere in the world. You just have to arrange your sleeping hours.
Right.
But also, Sheila, go wherever you're gonna go, search for a Toastmasters group out there, and hey, there's your person who's gonna pick you up because they're all over the world. And that's
Very
the one-
true. Oh my God, that's so true. Yes.
Yeah, because now we have people visiting our clubs from all over the world. Some of our trainees came from, well, they were coming from St. Thomas and Bermuda, but we have in one of my clubs, we have people visiting from India. So anywhere you go, there's probably a club, and that's a great way to get to know people.
That is
And
indeed. Yes.
yes, because it's all about relationships.
Yes. 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 Thank you for that, Cynthia.
That's wonderful.
So appreciate you. Really do.
You're
So much.
welcome. Okay, well, I will see you guys soon. I got to run to another meeting.
Okay. Thank you for showing
Thank
up.
you.
Okay.
Okay, bye-bye.
That was so good.
So
Oh,
good.
we're still recording.
Yeah, I'll stop the recording.
Okay. That was